Hello and welcome to our program Where God Weeps, a program where we talk about the realities of the suffering and persecuted church around the world. In today's program, we would like to invite you to Iraq. Several years after the fall of Saddam Hussein's regime, Christians in Iraq are still fighting for the right to be treated as equal citizens and to live according to their faith that they profess, free of persecution. They were greatly strengthened by Pope Francis' visit in March of 2021. Until 2003, Christians lived in relative peace and security in Iraq. But this tranquility came at a price of loss of personal freedoms and repression of those who dare to oppose the country's ruling dictator. The U.S. invasion in 2003 toppled Saddam Hussein's regime, but the consequence was nearly 2 decades of instability and worsening of the conflict between Sunnis and Shiites Muslims. Christians found themselves unwittingly at the center of this dispute. To better understand its situation, let's hear about the history of this country's ancient civilization.
Iraq is a country with ancient roots and with a long history of turmoil and conflict. One of the most relevant countries in the Middle East, it spans almost the entire Tigris and Euphrates rivers and is situated on what was once ancient Mesopotamia, one of the cradles of human civilization. Formerly part of the Ottoman Empire, Iraq was occupied by Britain during the course of World War I. It regained its independence in 1932 when it became a kingdom. The Arab nationalist Ba'ath Party took power, overthrew the British-installed monarchy, and proclaimed a republic in 1958. A series of dictators governed the country, the last of which was Saddam Hussein, who ruled his people with an iron fist and dragged Iraq into several catastrophic wars. Vast oil deposits have made the country rich and turned it into an important player in regional and world politics. Oil revenues constitute 90% of government income. The country encompasses about 10% of the world's oil reserves. The estimated population of Iraq is 31 million. Some 25% of Iraqis live below the poverty line. Water and electricity shortages are the order of the day. Continual violence and suicide attacks amongst various religious and political factions have destroyed many public institutions. Iraq is predominantly a Muslim country, with Islam practiced by 97% of the population. Two rival sects, Shiites and Sunnis, are involved in a constant and often violent power struggle. Christians have been present in Iraq for almost 2,000 years. In 2003, they numbered approximately 800,000. And although suffering discrimination, the community enjoyed relative freedom and security under the Ba'ath Party rule. Today their numbers have dwindled to a mere 200,000. The rest have fled their homeland as they stand unprotected before the threats, kidnappings, forced marriages and killings by terrorists, religious extremists and organized crime. Clergy have been murdered and churches bombed. It is the largest Christian exodus in recent history. However, even in these times of acute crisis, priests, sisters, and lay people have responded to the call of the gospel with heroic acts of faith and love.
di non rimanere solo
We cannot remain prisoners of fear,
del dolore,
pain, and also the future.
solo del futuro.
Thinking only of our future, we try to live normally.
In modo normale.
In the city of Mosul, despite the immense challenges, the church continues to stand with the faithful who remain, offering ministry, catechism, and activities for the youth. Their message is that there is something greater than fear, and that is life itself.
Noi vogliamo che gli altri
We want people from abroad to know of our situation.
cosa sta
We want them to know what is happening in Iraq,
succedendo
and to the Christians here,
Poi
and of course to pray.
la preghiera
We want people from abroad to pray for us.
per noi, perché noi
We have faith that prayer is the only solution left us. We want you to pray for us.
e noi vogliamo che gli altri preghino per noi.
Archbishop's Nona request still stands. Iraqi Christians want us to remember them, knowing the suffering that they are being subjected to. Since the making of this short video, Iraq's population has grown by more than 12 million, but the number of Christians has declined even more dramatically. We usually associate this tragedy with the rise to power of ISIS in 2014, which was the culmination of the persecution. However, the exodus of Christians began earlier, in the case of Mosul, with the events of 2007 and 2008, which led to a massive flight of Christians from the city. Let's go back to the time just before the Islamic State militants invaded Mosul and the Nineveh plains.
Iraq's second largest city. Since the ousting of Saddam Hussein's regime in 2003, its inhabitants have been trapped amid constant sectarian violence. Ubiquitous military checkpoints and shattered infrastructure make everyday tasks difficult. Christianity has been present in Mosul since the 1st century, long preceding the arrival of Islam. Before the fall of Saddam Hussein, Mosul was home to one of the largest populations of Christians in Iraq. Some 35,000 Christians lived side by side with Muslims. Today these numbers have dwindled to roughly 3,000. Systematic attacks, like the 2004 bombing of the Chaldean bishop's residence, have left this ancient community in ruins. Christians in Mosul have encountered inconceivable violence. Many have lost their lives because of their faith. Among them a young priest, Father Ragid Ghani, was gunned down in 2007 not far from his church. In March 2008, Archbishop Nona's predecessor in Mosul, the Most Reverend Paulos Farairajo, was kidnapped and murdered by Islamic extremists. Father Pios Afas was born and raised in Mosul. In 2007, he and another priest were kidnapped at gunpoint by 4 young men.
La première chose qu'on a fait, c'est qu'on s'est donné l'absolution.
The first thing we did was to give each other the sacrament of reconciliation. For my young friend, it was the first time he had confessed another priest. I also gave him confession as we prepared to die. When this deeply emotional ritual was complete, a serenity overwhelmed us.
On est devenu très calme.
Father Pios Afas and his colleague were released 9 days later after a ransom had been paid. Money, however, is not the leading motive for the atrocities carried out against Mosul's Christians.
Ci sono gruppi fondamentalisti islamici.
There exist Islamic fundamentalist groups who consider Mosul and Iraq as belonging to Islam. They don't want any other religion here. That is why Christians are persecuted and even killed.
The Archbishop's residence was moved to a small family home after the former location was devastated by the 2004 bomb attack. The streets leading to the current bishopric are barricaded, with a military patrol guarding each entrance. Archbishop Nona lives here with 4 of his priests.
So far, there are many people who ask me, "Are you still in Mosul?" I say yes, because of my faith, my feelings, and my duty. I can feel the need of the people for a priest. Our presence is a strength for people and fills their hearts with comfort and encouragement. I am witness to this by my visits to the people in every church I serve.
For Archbishop Nona and his priests, it is difficult to talk of the future. Their mission during these troubled times is to provide their faithful with hope by remaining with them despite the threats and violence.
Le radici della speranza sono la fede.
At the root of hope is faith. Our Christian faith always gives us hope where there is pain. In darkness, there is always a light somewhere. There is always hope. We are filled with hope that the Lord is with us, that our Christian life and that our faith deserves this kind of sacrifice. Our Christian faith is, according to us, our life. It is everything to us.
Secondo noi è la nostra vita tutta.
Less than a year after our journalists shot this footage, in June 2014, militants of the Islamic State, a Salafist terrorist organization, took control of the city. The occupation of Mosul lasted 3 years, until July of 2017. Christians were given a condition: convert to Islam, pay a religious tax, or die. Militants tagged Christians' houses with the letter N for Nazari, a term used for Christians in the Quran. Churches were turned into mosques, and homes and property of Christians were confiscated. Even more brutal persecution, rapes, kidnappings, and murders befall on the Yazidi religious minority. The European Union and the United States recognized this persecution of religious minorities by the Islamic State as a genocide. Hundreds of thousands of followers of Christ choose to flee their ancestral lands to then secure Iraqi Kurdistan. They needed literally everything.
Two house from level.
He had 2 houses, but now there is nothing for them now. Just what the cloth what they were wearing, they had to flee. ICS came and it was announced that all the people should leave or you should become Muslims. Or they have to pay taxes or they will be killed.
When the crisis of ISIS started, our people came, settled inside the church, inside the gardens. So me and some of my colleagues, we thought we have to have a health care for these people. So just we started in these caravans at St. Joseph Charity Clinic. The people who are treating here are all IDPs, means the internally displaced people. So we are treating Christian, Muslims, Yazidi without any exception. 100 to 150 patients a day. The cases differ according to the season. Despite all this, we have some cases belonging to stressful condition.
She's complaining of muscle pain and neck pain, but from her face you will look in anxiety.
Most of the people, if you ask them what's your sickness, sometimes they'll tell you, I don't know, it's my head, it's my shoulder, it's my back pain, it's my sugar, it's my blood pressure. They used to have their jobs, they used to have their own houses, they used to have their own cars, they used to have their own life. Now they lost each and everything. 99% of these people are mentally depressed.
It's the reason of stress, and the stress will change to different types of diseases. Till now, we have 2,800 chronic patients who receiving from us chronic medicine on monthly basis, as we are the only center to dispense for these IDPs, refugee, the chronic medicine. The staff here all are volunteer, but if we don't have medicine, we cannot provide anything for the patient. Holy Spirit working through people, that's why I want to thank all benefactors and the people who are supporting us. A special thank for the Holy Father, Pope Francis, for his prayer for the all IDPs, for his support as amount of budget for the clinic in order to continue in our mission for providing the chronic medicine for the patients.
Bishop Varda, Archbishop of Mosul, once said that people asked him a question: where is God in all of this? And he responded, He is among all of the internally displaced people, and also He is taking care of all their needs. And all we have to be is a channel to help those people who are in need. Behind each of these people is a dramatic story. Here is the story of Linda from Baghdad.
وهم اثناء سد الابواب كانوا حاملين رمانات، احنا نسميها رمانه، ففجروا هذا الباب ودخلوا داخل الكنيسه، اللي هم بقوا 4 اشخاص اللي دخلوا داخل الكنيسه. وابونا ثائر كان واقف هنا، والناس كانوا قداس عادي يوم احد كلش عادي. بدا الخوف اثناء الانفجار مال السياره. طبعا هاي كلها كانت زجاج هاي الكنيسه، فوقع الزجاج على العوائل، فبدا الصراخ وبدا الخوف اثناء هذه المرحله.
ورا ما خلصنا الإنجيل قرينا أبان الذي، صارت الطلق طلقات مو طبيعية مثل المواجهة. يعني توقعت شرطة يعني شلون بيناتهم دي يلحقون الإرهاب. أنا كنت حامل بيها بس دا أصلي. كريستينا قاعدة يمي قالت لي ماما لا تخافين، باستني. أنا اللي أشوف رأسا دخلوا كتلوا أبونا نسيم قدامي يعني بطلقات برقبته. أنا قاعدة يعني مثل الصدمة صارت عندي، يعني أول مرة أشوف هيك مقطع بس شفت الإرهابي قال لي تحركي، خلى الرشاشة هون يعني قال لي تحركي. أنا همين رفعنا إيدنا أنا وبنتي وأكو 3-4 نسوان، مشينا أباوع كلهم نايمين واحد فوق الآخر، مشينا لي يم الجوقة بالأمام. يعني قالت لي ماما نغم مدرستي بتعلم المسيحي خلي نروح يمها. نامت يمها حضنتها، ضربها لبنتي برشاشة بقلبها. أنا سوينا رأسا نمت بالأرض، فالنسوان ال5 ناموا علي، أنا كنت حامل كاترينا. ضربوني هم بس الطلق ما جاية، اجا بذول النسوان اللي كانوا نايمين علي. بقيت انتظر باوع كريستينا، ماتت رأسا ماتت، واني كنت بس اصلي اطلب من الله يعني ان فكنا من هاي المرحله اللي احنا بيها. دا اقول يا رب، يا رب يا يسوع انقذنا. اعرف كريستين ماتت. ذكرت ابني قبل لا اطلع، قال لي مام انا دا اخاف عليش لا تموتين. فرأسا اجى ببالي ابني، دا اقول يا رب خاطر ابني يعني انطيني حياة جديدة. حلمت بكريستين ثاني يوم اللي توفت، جتي بحلمي، إلا بحلمي هم صار انفجار. قالت ماما، قلت لها كريستينا وينك؟ قالت لي يوم أني ما تأذيت، أني ما حسيت. قالت لي لا تخافي، قالت لي أني ما حسيت بالطلقة. قلت لها صدق؟ قالت لي إيه ماما ما حسيت، أني متت رأسا ما حسيت. على طول أشوفها بأحلامي يعني. مرة شفتها يعني هالقد ما أبكي عليها، ظهرت صورة سيد المسيح عليه السلام بحلمي. قال لي ليش تبكين عليها؟ تعالي شوفيها وينها كريستينا. كريستينا بقلبي، شوف لي صورة كريستينا بقلبي يسوع. قال لي لا تخافين، هي يمي لا تبكين. أي.
The terrorist attack at the Syriac Cathedral of Our Lady of Salvation in Baghdad, in which Linda's daughter Christina was killed, took place on the eve of All Saints' Day holiday in 2010. More than 48 people died, including 2 priests and 46 lay people, entire families, mothers, fathers, and several children. Mariam, a young girl from Karakosh, same age as Christina's daughter, has grown amid this terror. She and her family have been living in a refugees camp.
أنا اسمي مريم وليد، أشتاق هواية عليها، إن شاء الله باكر نرجع عليها. كل واحد عنده شيء خصوصي له، والكرفان زين يعني يسوون أي شيء نطلبه يسوونه، والشوارع يبلطوها، يعني ماكو حمامات مشتركة. يعني بهاي الفترة لأنه دا تجي أمطار، فالشوارع اللي دا يبلطوها دا تتفك. يعني كنا إحنا بقراقوش قاعدين، فجاء واحد رجال دا يصيح، يعني إحنا كنا دا نسمع الأصوات مال الهوانات مال الطلقات. فرحنا يعني بنت وحدة ماتت. طلعنا بالساعة 11 بالليل. طبعا الله حفظنا، يعني إذا كنا بقينا كانوا راح يسوون أشياء مو حلوة بينا. فنشكر الله لأنه سترنا.
يلا باي. يلا بس باي. يلا حبيبي.
يعني مرات تحصل شوية مناقرة بين الصغار، لأنه عندنا صف الأول 2. مرات يتناقرون، تحصل مشكلة بين الكبار، ومرات يعني يهدون، السايق يفرقهم. أنا أريد أصلي وأقول لله نشكرك لأنه سترتنا وحفظتنا، ونطلب منك إنه ترجعنا على بيوتنا، ترجعنا على أرضنا اللي نحبها. أني أصلي يعني لما أصلي بالليل أو بالنهار أقول لله يا رب أني أصلي للناس اللي ما طلبوا مني أصلي لهم، للمرضى، للي دي يبحثون عن الحق، للأشرار على مود، وخاصة الداعش، على مود يعني يصير أكو محبة بقلوبهم. بس هاي المدرسة يعني أحسن، وحتى لو شدية أكثر بس أتعلم أحسن الشدية. يعني حتى بالعطلة أشتاق 15 يوم ردت بس أجي. أكو مادة ما تعجبني وأكو مادة تعجبني هواي. المادة اللي تعجبني علوم، أحلى مادة عندي. ما أعرف، يمكن مرتلة، يمكن ملحنة، يمكن ماسير، يمكن دكتورة. بس دكتورة وماسير يعني دكتورة بماسير، يعني ماسير ودكتورة.
Mariam is one of 120,000 Christians that had to flee from ISIS in Iraq. What happened to this girl and her family? What was the further fate of the Christian residents of Mosul who became refugees? In the next episode, we will continue the story of Iraq, the return of some Christians to the land of their ancestors and its reconstruction, and the new hope that Pope Francis' trip brought to the country. Thank you for being with us in another program of Where God Weeps in Debt, and we're looking forward to see you next week. God bless.